All right. The Chargers head to Denver to take on the Broncos. Guys, give me some perspective on the fantasy implications of this game. You have Rivers, obviously, Woodhead, who he was okay last week. Really no other pass catchers. Gates has fallen out of favor with fantasy owners. I know that. So from the San Diego side, start there.
So I'll start with Woodhead, and I think Woodhead was actually good last week. For some reason, not known to us, the Chargers were forcing Donald Brown into the game, similar to what they were doing with Melvin Gordon of we got to get this guy going. We got to get Donald Brown going for some reason.
Well, the reason is you're not going to give Danny Woodhead the ball between the tackles 15 times. That's just decided. It's not going to happen.
I completely agree with that.
You should in Week 17. I mean, they won't. But I'm just saying, if I was the coach, I would.
I got to look up this Donald Brown.
He looked so great.
Line.
Why would you do that?
Because he is your best ball carrier through the tackles. He's better than Donald Brown, and he's better on the field. He's better in pass protection. He confuses the defense. You don't know whether you're passing or running if you're using the same guy. If I'm the coach, I do it. All that being said, they're not going to do it. But they did in the fourth quarter. You saw he had
switch
over 90 yards in the fourth quarter, right? Through the air and ground.
I don't recall. I know that Woodhead was barely into the game until the fourth quarter, and then they started having success. Here's Donald Brown's stat line carrying the ball last week. 14 carries. That's good, At 14, he's got to be running well. 17 yards.
He looked bad every time he touched the ball. I remember texting you guys like,
what?
Why is Donald Brown in the game?
What are you doing?
Every time I see Donald Brown's stat lines, I think about how much he must appreciate Trent Richardson. Trent Richardson got him so much money because he held up against Trent Richardson, who was not an NFL running back. We just didn't know it yet. He looked great.
Yeah, because everyone's watching going, wow.
He is so fast.
Trent Richardson's good, and this guy is even better.
Yep.
Donald Brown.
Other side of the ball, Brock Osweiler. You've got Anderson, who's running very well at this time of the year, but limited carries. Hillman got more work. Anderson was by far more efficient, including a big touchdown run last week. Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. Those guys were on and off the field a little bit last week, banged up. You saw Norwood catch some passes. And then you've got the tight end situation there where, by the way, Vernon Davis saw like 5 snaps.
Yeah, that's not been working out for them. For Detroit, Sanders, Thomas, start him every week. Of the running backs, I prefer C.J. Anderson this week. And I honestly think that Anderson can be an okay play this week. The Chargers are bad run defense. They have been bad all year long.
Love it.
So Anderson's a fine play this week. The thing that I wanted to flip back to real quick on Antonio Gates, is this Antonio Gates' last game?
No.
You think he comes back?
I think he comes back.
I do as well. But you've seen an offense that since they lost Keenan Allen and Stevie Johnson, his involvement, they can take him out of the game, basically. They can take Gates out of the game because he's not going to separate. And I've seen this before. They'll throw a couple guys, jam him at the line. He's not a goal line threat. And then all of a sudden you've lost Antonio Gates' value.
I'm fine rolling Gates this week. He definitely pooped in his big boy pants last week, but that was coming off of 3 games in a row with 6 receptions.
Are the Chiefs still number 1 against tight ends?
The Chiefs?
Yeah, they were number 1 against tight ends for a very long period of time.
For fantasy scoring?
Fantasy-wise.
Yes, I believe that's correct. So, I mean, obviously not a...
No, they're not. They've given up a lot now. So
The Chiefs have? Lately?
Well, hold on a second.
The Chiefs are...
I didn't mean the Chiefs.
You did mean the Chiefs, not the Broncos.
Yeah, I meant the Chiefs when I said the number 1. I don't know why I said the Chiefs, though. It's the Broncos that they're obviously playing, and the Broncos aren't that good against them. So right. I had Chiefs still in my head. My apologies.
And so, that makes sense. The Chiefs are still very good, but I believe you were looking up probably the Broncos, how they've been doing.
The Chiefs' defense is so good.
And the Broncos...
They're playing in 2 games. Who was the guy that played in all the games last week? Remember in the beginning of the year he played in every game? Was it Hearns?
No.
Oh, who was that? Every team you give...
Eddie Royal? I don't remember who it was. But my apologies.
It was Devin Funchess.
Yeah, it was Devin Funchess. And I got us off track there. I apologize. I was looking up the wrong team. So
yeah, no worries.
The Broncos are 19th against the tight end. So I'm fine with what you said.
So So Gates, we like him this week?
I like him. I would play him over Reed.
Too. Yes, I would play him over Reed this week.
All right, let's talk about the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Another important game. Cardinals, if they can get this win and the Panthers somehow lose to Tampa, they'll take home field advantage. Bruce Arians has already said they're coming out. They're playing all their players. It's another game. Treating game 17 like game 1, I think is what he said. So
now Michael Floyd has a knee problem, sat out practice. We don't know much about it. He's still expected to play and start. That worries me just a little because, I hadn't heard anything about that. And then we see that happening. It gives me a slight, whenever I see an injury or a missed practice.
I think he might sit because of that.
Yeah, that would be great. But
that's what I think will happen.
And even if he doesn't, whenever I see an injury or a missed practice for any of the Cardinals receivers, what that does to me is it shifts it gives me a bump up to the other guys. And I just think they'll be more involved because we've really seen that play out this year. Whoever the injured guy is or whoever's missed practice doesn't perform as well this week, and they kind of game plan more to the other guys.
I would bump Fitz and John Brown up in this game. I completely agree with you. They're not going to take chances with a guy as valuable as Floyd. That offense with Floyd working, playing at max capacity is important.
Yeah.
So I would agree with you completely there.
So let's say Floyd does play though. Then how are you ordering the receivers?
I would play. I'd order them: John Brown, Larry Fitzgerald, Michael Floyd.
That is my.
So you're
ranking.
taking this injury. See, for me, I'm taking it as it's just like a day off.
Okay,
and it could be, but the truth is that with these 3 receivers, you could order them in any 3. You could say Michael Floyd, Fitz, John Brown, or any direction, and you have no idea what's right. That's where I try to let the news kind of dictate the order.
Yeah, because the best it can do
kind
is
of a hint.
Yeah, the wind blows in one different direction a little bit, and that's the best guess that you have. So right now, we don't really know enough about his status to really say one way or the other whether he'll go, but you need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, we're not going to be on the air tomorrow with a new show as it's New Year's, but the practice reports are available. If he is, if he misses practice again, then it's not a day off. It's not a day of rest. It's a serious problem.
Yeah, and it is listed as an injury. So we'll see what happens.
All right, let's stare into the fire.
I'm starting David Johnson.
Yeah, I'm starting David Johnson too. But
he's too involved in the passing game to sit him down.
Stare into the fires. Doug Baldwin. What do you think about in fuego himself, Doug Baldwin, this week?
I'd play him.
Yep.
I don't see how you sit a guy that has been as good as Doug Baldwin, even in a good matchup or a bad matchup against Adrian Peterson.
Are you expecting a big game? Now?
Absolutely not. But I expect him to get 1 touchdown. That's kind of how I view it.
What I thought you were going to ask me is whether I thought Peterson would shadow him or something, and that's not going to happen with the way Baldwin plays.
Peterson will not shadow him?
I don't think Peterson will shadow him the whole game. No.
And why?
Because Baldwin moves around into the slot. I don't think Peterson's going to follow him everywhere. He's a smaller guy. He's not a normal, prolific, number 1 outside type receiver. I just think he'll be on him some, and he will not be on him some. So, could be wrong. So, Russell Wilson,
one of the
how much is he ticked down in this game with the Cardinals at home, Cardinals defense?
I took him down a good bit.
Do you expect the pass rush to get to him like the Rams did last week?
It sure seems so.
We sacked Aaron Rodgers at home 9 times last week, and now you've got Russell Wilson.
The Cardinals did?
Yeah, the Cardinals did. Sorry. A little homerism there. But that is part of why Russell Wilson was my sit of the week. Going to try to get a successful sit of the week on Russell Wilson. There's other options out there that I would stream over playing a guy. I would
Brian Hoyer or Russell Wilson.
That's a really good question. If I were to have to make that decision between those 2 players alone, I would play Brian Hoyer. I really would. I know that. I know.
So then Eli Manning or Russell Wilson
would be Eli Manning for sure.
Okay.
All right. So let me give you a couple other Russell Wilsons. Will you play Matt Stafford over him?
No, I don't. The Chicago defense has a pretty good pass defense on the year.
Did you just say Sam Bradford?
No.
Would you? You
did.
Would you play Bradford over him?
I would not play Bradford over him because of the coaching change. We just don't know what is going to happen. Don't know if they're going to come out and try to be a running team. It's just a question mark.
Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Ooh,
yeah, I would play Fitzmagic over Russell Wilson.
Oh,
I mean, I've got Russell
Wilson.
Wilson
That's the push comes to shove. We got to figure that out.
I've got him as a quarterback 1, but he's a lower end, and I just think there are other guys in your championship week that you probably have on your roster that are good. These examples here, you probably have a Fitzpatrick type of player or an Eli Manning on the team with Russell Wilson, and I would shift over there.
The biggest question to me, if you're looking at do I start Russell Wilson, what do you believe their offensive line is? If Seattle's offensive line is back to being very porous and not a strength of their team, combined with Arizona the way that they looked last week, I mean, so this is ultimate recency bias for me.
They can't run the ball. Seattle can't run the ball right now. They don't have options to run the ball, so it's one-dimensional.
So if that's what you're buying into, then Russell Wilson is in trouble this week.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and the fact that they can't run the ball hurts their offensive line's
we know Lynch
ability
is out
to
this
protect
week.
them.
Yep. All right, the Vikings take on the Packers this is the Sunday night game, I believe.
The Sunday night game for the NFC North division.
What do you do as a fantasy owner of Aaron Rodgers right now? Because the teams that won championships last week with Aaron Rodgers did it in spite, not because of him, obviously. Rodgers has weapons that are not dependable. He's got a running game that's not dependable. But he's still Aaron Rodgers. And every once in a while, Aaron Rodgers can drop 5 touchdowns on a defense. I don't think it's going to be the Vikings.
Yeah, he dropped 212 yards and 2 touchdowns on them last time, but here, starting in reverse order, so from week 16 counting back, here's his touchdowns through the air: 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2. That's not that's not the fantasy output you want.
So does he get
from an
2
Aaron
this
Rodgers.
week?
Probably.
Okay.
He probably gets
at home.
I'll
They're
give
at
you
home,
an
so
example of how I feel about him. I have Russell Wilson 1 spot ahead of Aaron Rodgers.
So Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers?
I would start Russell Wilson.
Okay, I'm just making sure you're confident in that.
That's how I see it.
What Russell Wilson represents, especially if they don't have a running
Upside.
game, Cardinals can't get to the edge very well. He can run the ball. He
Sure.
can give you a baseline that's
He could very easily, even in a bad performance, get
Yep.
60 yards on the ground from scrambles, and
I would rather play him than Rodgers.
that's a touchdown. Just with his legs on the ground.
And it's coincidental these games are back to back here in our kind of analysis because same problem. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, offensive line can't protect them right now. And so, at least in recency, like you said,
Yeah.
Seattle's been playing well, but they had some opponents without pass rushes. And now the Packers take on a Vikings team that is, I think they're locked and loaded to, the Packers are favored.
Now, is this game for the this
Yeah,
game
it's
is
for
This
the
is for the division.
for the division?
And I'm going to take the Vikings to win the game.
Ooh.
Yeah, and this is at Lambeau, right?
Yes.
3-point favorites, 45.5 over under. I'm going to take the Vikings on the back of Adrian Peterson to win the division.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. I'm surprised that this isn't a pick'em game, anyways. I guess they're just giving the Lambeau
I'm
home
not
field.
because the Packers are leading the division and they're at home. Those are reasons to be favored.
Yeah, but they also are coming off of a devastating loss. They have been not themselves recently, and the Vikings are coming off of a crushing victory. So that's
Right. So any wide receiver you want to start in this game on either team?
That is crazy town.
crazy town because the answer is no.
Crazy.
I mean, who would you rather start, Randall Cobb or Stefan Diggs?
Cobb. And that's it. Maybe.
You know what? I think the best start of the game. The best start of the game is James Jones.
At wide receiver.
At wide receiver across both teams, James Jones is the guy to start.
Highest touchdown chance.
And yeah, longer plays, seemingly, targeted regularly. Stefan Diggs, he can do it. He showed he could come back and do it a couple weeks ago. He'd be the next on the list for me, and I would leave everybody else on the sideline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would throw my head back in wonderment because it just didn't seem like that would be the case for these guys at the beginning of the year. Eddie Lacy. What is the tale of Eddie Lacy? What does he do in this game?
Oh, Eddie Lacy.
Fantasy owners need to know who to start Eddie Lacy over to win their Week 17 weeks. We have him one spot behind Rashad Jennings in our consensus, 2 spots behind Jeremy Hill, 3 behind Bilal Powell, and just ahead of James White, Jeremy Langford, Javorius Allen.
I think that's exactly where he should be. If you're in a PPR, though, I would put White ahead of Lacy.
And I have that. I want to have confidence in Eddie Lacy this week. It just seems like it's gonna be cold. It's outside.
At home.
At home, Eddie Lacy has just dominated in these circumstances. Yet I don't have full confidence in him, which is it's really unfortunate.
Since week 1, when Minnesota got gashed, remember, by Carlos Hyde in that crazy game. Since then, Minnesota has given up 3 total touchdowns to the running back on the year.
Let me put it this way, Mike.
Oof.
Would you start C.J. Anderson and your hunch about him this week against San Diego, or would you rather start Eddie Lacy this week?
Oh man, I think I'd go Anderson there.
Anderson to me has a better touchdown opportunity.
I mean, it's similar situation where him and Hillman are splitting and Lacy and Starks are splitting. So I guess I would lean to the matchup against the Chargers.
All right. Any final words on this matchup before we hit the mailbag?
No.
Just that
stay away from the receivers.
What a world we are in where we say, hey, which Packers receivers are you starting?
None of them.
None. Oh.